Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of the Boot Report. In today's episode, we are going over some insane ViniFly leaks, the new pink David Beckham Predators, and of course, some unbelievable new boots that I just got in, and the downfall of Nike football. Let's start off with section 1, the weekly news. Now, some of the latest colorway drops that we have seen now come to market. Of course, I might miss some every week, but the kind of main drops that we got this last week were the Mbappe signature purple colorway, which I had leaked a couple weeks ago. Those are an okay looking football boot. If I'm honest, I'm not super stoked about them, particularly because he only got one game in the Air Max 95 boots, which I think are, even though, okay, maybe they don't look as good as the purple ones, sort of objectively speaking, I actually think they're cooler looking because they're so unique and because they have sort of that extra little pizzazz, and they looked actually pretty sick with the Real Madrid kit. But he only did one game in them, which is kind of annoying. I think that would have been such a cool thing to sort of continue, like he was wearing those, he wore those purple TN boots that I actually have down there behind me. So I wish he would have done that, but the purple signature colorway with the KM on sort of the inside of the heel area, the medial part of the heel area, they look okay. I'm not a huge fan, and I think signature colorways, which we'll talk about in just a minute with the downfall of Nike, I think that signature colorways don't really hold the weight that they used to, and so it's an okay thing. Then we just got, literally as of the filming of this video, it is currently Friday, April 18th. This episode will come out on Sunday or Saturday, maybe Sunday US time, I think. And literally 24 hours ago, the drop of the new Messi signature La Vida Tropical colorway, or tropical La Vida, like the tropical life basically is what that means. And it's another Messi colorway. It is very Miami. It's like the Miami pink and the Miami blue put together. In terms of his overarching colorways, I think it's cooler looking. It's more unique than the original gold ones. I think it's definitely more unique than the white and purple and yellow ones that I have here than these ones. I think it's probably on par, at least for me. Although I like the Bad Bunnies better, I do think that this new blue and pink colorway actually looks pretty sick, and it kind of matches the Inner Miami kits, and it's very tropical, and it's definitely on brand for being in Miami, which is dope. I mean, that's what it is. So I'm not gonna complain about those. That being said, it is another Messi F50 boot. In my opinion, why not just make the Messi F50 the F50? Like, I think put a standard U-throat tongue in there, or put the compression fit tunnel system from the regular F50 in there, and then just make those colorways. Because respectfully, outside of maybe one or two colors, the Messi F50 colorways have actually been, I think, better than the regular ones. So I don't know. They've been more unique and they've been more special. And yeah, it's a special edition, but I don't know. But anyway, kind of cool. Pink and blue. Then we also got the unbelievable looking and very unique Kith FC Predator Mania. So the Adidas by / or X Kith FC. One of those, the black with the quilted tongue, and it's all black with this beautiful electric blue colorway, is so pretty. I am actually going to try to get a pair of those if I can. If you guys have a pair in size 9 US, I would love to purchase them. Those are a pair of boots that I actually want in my collection because they look dope. They're my favorite color combo. And as you can see from the logo here and just from my brand in general, and I just think they look sick. And then the other one is a white and black and red, I believe. So also a cool colorway and a really interesting and cool collab that they did with Kith FC. So those are dope. And then we also got the Bellingham Predators finally dropped. I think those were sort of in between this episode and last episode. Those might have actually dropped like just before last episode dropped, but they were also they were leaked a long time ago. So a very cool pair of Predators, all silver with that maroon colorway like we talked about in last week's episode, but we actually have them now. I will have hands on with those, the Mbappes, and I think the Messis in the next week. So stay tuned on Instagram in my community tab. on YouTube here, and I will probably be posting some photos. I don't know if I'm going to take any of those home. I don't think I want to, but I will definitely have them in hand because I'm doing some work for like a video for Ultra featuring all 3 boots, which is pretty sick. So you guys will see that on the Ultra channel as well. So 4 signature / special edition colorways. I know I'm a little sort of signatured out as well. However, I think the last couple of colorways, the Mbappe boots, they're subtle, they're purple and gold. Okay, fine. You know, Messi, very bright, very unique, very bold, kind of cool in my opinion. The Kith FC Predator Manias, dope as, and the Bellingham Predators are actually pretty cool looking. And I think they look great on feet as well in his recent game yesterday against Arsenal. So up the Gunners. Now moving on to boot leak releases. Now this is where we get into some pretty juicy leaks. There's some unbelievable stuff coming up, which I think is really cool. So the first one that I want to cover is the T90 and PSG, like the Total 90 and PSG boots. And these look really, really cool. It's another one of those T90 kind of court shoes or style shoes, if you will. And it's got the Paris logo like inside of the T90 circle logo. I'll put photos up on screen and stuff, but they look really good. They're a classic silver and white, and then they have the red T90 logo, and then they've got the PSG logo in the blue and red and white embossed on the back, which look really, really sick. So those are going to be probably September release. So that's a little while away, but those were leaked, and we've got some pretty quality pictures of those as well. The next one we got is a new colorway again. Oh my God. The Adidas Fall Pack. So this is probably September, October-ish, and we are getting another sort of pretty average pack in my opinion. What's really funny is, here we go. So the F50 Plus from this new pack looks to be potentially the new generation. I don't think it's going to be, but it is almost identical looking to this one, just with a little less blue, which is hilarious to me because I just think Adidas is running out of, like, just stop releasing colorways, man. Release good colorways and just release bigger volume of those colorways. There's so many. I'm just so colorwayed out. But yeah, so the F50 Plus looks like this one. I'd imagine that the regular F50, the women's F50 will look basically the same. So it'll be like a white or an off-white, this sort of really electric yellow orangey color, and then blue. So it's like literally the same thing. You guys will see in photos. The Predator is sort of a what am I looking for? Like a matte orangey color with blue accents. It's out there. It's pretty if I'm honest. It's like not great looking. And then the Copa is a white base, blue stripes with sort of this like pinky peach heel area. Overall, a very, like, if that's actually the color that comes out in September, October, or August, September, whatever, very disappointed, honestly. Not great. So that's that, but we got some really good photos of that as well. Coming up pretty soon, actually, I think in the next couple days. In fact, it might be launching today or tomorrow as of the filming of this video. But I think in April, we got some Heung-Min Son signature F50 Pluses, which actually look really, really sick. You guys will see on screen as well. But those are actually super clean. And yes, they follow a very similar design language to the F50 Plus. He obviously wears the regular F50, not the F50 Plus. So these are a laceless regular F50. So just without the Light Strike Pro elements here in the forefoot, and then just a slightly modified and flatter sole plate, which is obviously what the regular F50 laceless is. I've got to get my names right. The F50 lineup has 3-4 different ones, which is just absolutely nuts. So those look really good. They are blue, sort of this orangey red colorway with a white base, and then the Adidas, instead of having like F50 right here, they have Son in SON right there, which I think is really cool. So it's about time that he got another signature colorway. I think he's been with Adidas for so long. He's been in the Adidas speed boot for like literally all of his career. And so, yeah, it's cool to see that he's getting another signature colorway. So I actually really rate those. I think those are sick. I don't think I'll get a pair. I'm a fan of Son, not a fan of Tottenham for obvious reasons. I don't think I'm going to get a pair of those. If I'm given a pair, they'll definitely live on the boot wall and they'll be awesome and it'll be really cool. But I just don't see him. He's an iconic player. He's a great player. He's lasted forever. I don't know. They're just not for me. So then we get into the really tasty ones. And the first one is the Vini Jr. signature ViniFly boots. These look absolutely ridiculous. Like so good. They are, I'm pretty sure one color on the inside and one color on the outside. It's a black grip knit base with red, like a peach, orange, red, ombre into yellow on the outside, and then the Brazilian green and yellow ombre together on the inside. You guys will see photos up, but they look so sick. Like this to me is quintessential Nike, like alpha dog level signature colorways, in my opinion. These are so cool looking. I will absolutely be getting a pair if I can. It'll be an awesome addition to the boot wall, as well as just an epic piece of art to take photos of and to potentially do a playtest in. That being said, I've done a lot of Vapor content already, so I'm not sure on the playtest side of things, but just as a boot and how beautiful they are, I think it's so sick. And Vinny's a great player. You gotta give it to him. He doesn't, in my opinion, he doesn't touch Neymar. He doesn't touch, Ronaldinho and some of those guys at the Brazilian level, but he is elite. He's probably, if Neymar and Ronaldinho in the Brazilian football federation, in Brazilian football, if those two and Rivaldo and R9 and those guys are like S tier, he's easily A tier, like top of A tier. He's a fabulous footballer. He's got crazy tech. He's just not as consistent, I think, as maybe some of these other players were at some level. Obviously, Neymar and Ronaldinho both kind of fell off because of partying and whatever, and the transfer to PSG, which was just a nightmare. But anyway, you get what I mean. Unbelievable pair of football boots. Then we got the David Beckham, next-gen David Beckham Predators. Now, the leak is next-gen Adidas Predators, but they look identical to the current 25 Elites. Now, I would imagine, I don't think, given the photos and the materials that we can actually see from these photos, I don't think they are going to be leather. I don't think so. I would love them to be leather because they are a beautiful, like cotton candy pink base with the actual David Beckham logo on the tongue, plus the Adidas logo and David Beckham. So they look amazing. Great design with the Predator 25 Elite, which is a great classic design now, and I think will continue to be a very, very sought after design moving forward. But I don't think they're going to be fusion skin, which is a little bit of a bummer. I wish they had, I wish this David Beckham colorway was more, they called it the David Beckham, even though they went down the Adidas heritage route. So I wish they would have called that one just like Adidas Originals Predator or something like that. And then they have the Rotero that are obviously both leather. And then with this one, I would have hoped that it would have been like the David Beckham signature in pink for the Miami color with the David Beckham like winding up for a shot logo. And then you make it fusion skin as well. I think that would be epic, but I'm pretty sure these are going to be hybrid touch, which I'm not mad about. Again, the Predator 25 is an awesome, I love that football boot. It's so good to play in. And also, if you're going to make a signature David Beckham colorway, come on, dude, just make it fusion skin. And I know he wasn't even a fan of having animal products in his own boots, which is why his power swerves were synthetic. but it just, I don't know. I think if you're going to make a DB Pred, you got to make it leather. I just think that it fits the vibe so much more. So that is leak boot releases. One of the big last thing here for the weekly news is the player boot brand swaps. One of the swaps that we actually saw was Garnacho in Skechers Razor, which is super interesting. So I don't have, the SG model is in my car. I only brought the SKX, but I do have the Razor. He was not wearing this particular pair of Razor, but this is a Skechers Razor 1.5, the updated model. It is a very good football boot. It does everything really well, in my opinion. Good lockdown, awesome comfort, fits most people, really comfortable insole, Tasian synthetic from the Vapor 10, and a very suitable aggressive traction. And then this is the sole plate that they put on the SG model. So it's the same sole plate. It's just like a mixed stud. They've just taken out some of the like the 6 studs that you would take out in a normal mixed stud type of variant. So interesting for Garnacho to go to Skechers. That is, in my opinion, another massive signing for the Skechers brand. They obviously have Kane, they have Ilanga, they have Zinchenko, they have a couple other guys that I'm going to forget the name of. Getting somebody like Garnacho, who's getting quite a lot of minutes at Manchester United and is a big name at Man United, is a big name for Portugal. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It doesn't surprise me. However, like on the other side of that argument, though, is that he isn't now a top priority for Nike, it seems. So they're probably moving on. My guess is that Man United's not doing as well. Yes, they just won that insane game today versus Lyon, which was amazing. You guys have to watch the highlights if you didn't watch the game. The noise, I'm not a Man United fan, obviously, but the noise of the crowd for the game tying goal and then the winner of from Maguire, it was just shit, like tears and shivers and just like all the emotions all at once. Like it just, like the crowd just went absolutely ballistic. Like, of course you would, but like it reminded me of the Barcelona PSG, like biggest comeback ever in Champions League history when they won 6-1 at home after having been down 4-0 at PSG. Like that's the type of, like it just, like they just, and then like Messi scoring against Arsenal in what was it, 2009, 2010, 11, one of those. And yeah, just the sound of the crowd is just like, you can't be a football enthusiast and not just, regardless of who you support, you can't not like absolutely love that, in my opinion. So interesting from Garnacho switching to Skechers. Great signing for Skechers. And also it's probably because he kind of went onto the market because Nike probably was like, he's like, okay. Like he's a good player, but he's not amazing. And in terms of grand scheme of things, obviously he's an amazing footballer. It's just, yeah, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, interesting. Going to Skechers. I'm thinking that we're going to see Skechers pour a lot more money into athlete endorsements coming up soon. I'm hoping they grab more female players as well. I think having really top quality women's players, having some top quality men's players like Under Armour is doing with the likes of Hakimi and Ferran Torres and Firmine and like all those guys, like they're crushing it right now with the Shadow. I think the SKX, I like the Shadow more, I think. Yeah, I like the Shadow more than the SKX. But the SKX has a really great foundation, like really, really good foundation, and it is monstrously comfortable as well, and thinner than the Shadow. But then the Razor is like a very good football boot. And so my hope is that they sort of lean with, Under Armour surely doesn't even have a fraction of the budget that Skechers does because Skechers is a much larger brand as a whole. And yeah, so hopefully they lean into that a little bit more. Anyway. All right, second to boot talk. We are going to start with the weekly boot comparison. Thanks everybody who voted on my Instagram. I'm going to keep doing that, I think, because I want to make sure that you guys get a vote and a say in what the boot comparison is for the week. Now, the top voted with 42% of the votes was the Alpha 2 versus the Vapor 16 Elite. So the Alpha 2 and the Vapor 16 Elite, we are going to pause very quickly and I'll be back. I'm going to grab them. Oh, sweet. Okay. So they're actually right here. So Alpha 2, I've gotten the rainbow colorway, and then the Vapor 16 in the OG prototype Bowerman color as well. Okay. So just an overview quickly. We have Alpha 2 with the 5-layer synthetic upper. We have a full zero glide tech on the inside. That's that black material throughout the entirety of the upper. We have a 4-layer tongue, standard U-throat tongue, and then we have all triangular studs with a very, very responsive sole plate because there is carvo in the forefoot. Now we move over to the Vapor 16 Elite, a little bit of an overview. It is a grip knit forefoot and sort of midfoot with the seam going kind of right there on the lateral side. Atom knit, which is basically just really thin fly knit through the rear quarter, basically, rear third, rear quarter, and then an exposed fly knit here. And then, of course, their iconic Air Zoom sole plate with mostly chevron studs and then this kind of wave-like pattern on the sole plate. So both very, very top quality speed boots with incredibly different approaches, as you can see from, if we put them on the ground and I smush them together, as you can see, the profile of them is very different. Much more volume in the Vapor, much lower volume in the Alpha. So if you guys aren't familiar, weekly boot comparison, we are going to go over sole plate, upper, heel, comfort, performance, design, lace area, and X factor. So let's go for the sole plate. Now, this is going to be probably pretty controversial because if we're talking just stud pattern and sole plate, Air Zoom is part of the sole plate. Carvo is part of the midsole. So technically, we can't include Carvo in this conversation, unfortunately, which is a bummer because I really, really love Carvo and I love the Alpha sole plate. But I think the sole plate has to go to the Vapor because the Air Zoom is very special. It's very unique to play in, and it's very, very, it feels very, very unique in comparison. That being said, if you were to ask me what my personal favorite is, it's the Alpha sole plate. I just think it's a little less like overtly aggressive with this stud traction. And also it's a little bit flatter and it's got a little bit more of that grounded feel to it. So the winner is the Vapor, but I'm going to pick, like, I'd personally rather wear the Alpha sole plate. Now moving on to the upper. So the upper is also a place that I think is going to be really controversial. I think, in my opinion, oh, this is so hard. So I had originally written down the Vapor for the upper. The reason for that is because I think that the grip knit technology is absolutely amazing. I love grip knit, although I think it's way overused because 4 out of 5 of Nike's top end boots have grip knit now. It's just annoying, but the application of the grip knit in the Vapor 16 and Superfly 10 is wonderful. It feels amazing on feet. It's very, very thin. It's comfortable. It's pliable. It does everything really, really well. That being said, the upper of the new Alpha 2 is majestic. It is everything you want in a speed boot. So I'm still going to give it to the Vapor by just this much. But again, you could easily make an argument for the Alpha 2. I know this is going to, the sole plate and the upper are going to be very controversial. The heel area is not controversial at all. The heel area, as you can see, is very clearly the Alpha 2. It is much more narrow. But it's also pretty flexible, so it's gonna fit way more people. So if you have a narrow heel area, you'll fit in here. If you have a wider heel area, it's gonna be just fine as well. It's got zero glide all over the place, so your heels do not slip at all, which is pretty insane for a speed boot of today's era. It feels like it should be a given, but that's not the case with these. I think the heel area on the Vapor is actually quite good. It's just not the same in terms of aggressiveness, comfort, and everything as the Mizuno heel area. And I would say, to be honest, like generally speaking, Mizuno heel areas and most made in Japan products do heel areas far better than anyone else on the market. Like it's not even close. The only individual, screw that individual. The only brand, in my opinion, that has really stepped up their game in terms of heel areas that isn't Athleta, Asics, Mizuno, maybe Adler. Maybe. Yeah, I'll put Adler in that category. Outside of those, Puma. The Puma King heel area is up there. It's freaking awesome. Heel goes to the Alpha 2. Now, in terms of comfort, now this one you guys probably will see coming. The general comfort has to go to the Vapor. I think most people are going to fit in the Vapor, whereas less people are going to fit in the Alpha 2. Yes, they've done a really nice job with the Alpha 2, making the upper more pliable despite it not stretching at all and being very, very aggressive on feet, which is really good for some people. Generally speaking, though, the out-of-box comfort and the comfort you get from a knit football boot is just objectively more comfortable, in my opinion, than the synthetic on the Alpha. So that's a pretty easy one. And then we go to performance. Now, I guess you could be like, oh, the Air Zoom and the Grip Knit together make for a really good performing football boot. That's true, but that's not going to be the winner because the Alpha 2 exists. The Alpha 2 is I would argue by a landslide, by a metric shit ton. This is the most aggressive boot on the market. Like it's the most locked in, it's the most focused, it's the most speed boot oriented. The only other speed boot I would argue on the market that comes even close to this in terms of focus is the carbon edition of the Puma Ultra 5. But the Puma Ultra 5 carbon doesn't have what the Alpha has, and that's an upper that is sensational, the zero glide on the entirety of the inside of the boot, the super lightweight feel, and a sole plate that doesn't literally feel like you're running on a 2x4. So performance easily goes to the Alpha. Design. Now, I sort of waffled on this one quite a bit. And it honestly pains me to say this because I love the design of the Alpha. A Mercurial is just a Mercurial. Yeah, you could argue this Air logo in the back is just disgusting and it's hideous. But the general vibe of a Vapor, it's kind of hard to argue with. I know, like, you could personally argue the Alpha. Like, we'll get to the ending very soon. But I think from a design perspective, the Vapor, I think, has to win because the colorways that they've come out with a couple of these Vapor colorways have been sensational looking, like really good looking. Not to say that the Alpha hasn't had any really good colorways, because it has. It's had some amazing colorways. I just think from a design perspective, though, you can't argue with the heritage and the sort of, the Nike vibe, I guess. It's really hard to argue with, especially a Vapor. The rest of the boots on the market from Nike are like at the minute, but yeah, the design of the Vapor is very good. Now we move on to lace area. Now this one's really easy for me. This one's easily going to be the Mizuno Alpha 2. Part of that is because I think yes, I love knit football boots. I like the monosock construction, all that stuff. But I think the zero glide on the bottom of this tongue area, plus the fact that it's a standard U-throat tongue, you have the extra lace loop for the runner's knot, and it's just generally a very light and thin and elegant feeling lace area. I wish they would have put zero glide laces in here, but outside of that, the lace area for the standard U-throat tongue wins out for me every day. It's also going to fit more people, so that's kind of one of those things. And then let's move on to X Factor. Which one of these has an X Factor? I think both actually have X Factors, but I am going to give the X Factor to the Mizuno Alpha 2. I think that if this was like the boot that a lot of people wore and more people were Alpha users as opposed to F50 or, you know, Vapor or Puma Ultra 5. Like if most people were to try the Alpha and they were like a diehard F50 fan, especially the new one, or they were a diehard Ultra 5 fan, fair play, because the Ultra 5 is freaking awesome, and they were to step into an Alpha, I genuinely believe that pretty much everybody would be like, oh, yeah, okay, Mizuno's operating on like a totally different level. Like it's not even, it's like barely, like it's not even comparable. Like that's how good I think this football boot is. And I think because of the fact that it's pretty unique, there's not a lot of players that are wearing them. Obviously, Felix is wearing them and Ramos is wearing them, but like they don't really have the budget for a lot of player endorsements. And so not a lot of people wear them other than like maybe J League and some of the Asian leagues. X Factor goes to here. So we have Vapor 4 and Alpha 2, Alpha 2, Alpha 2, Alpha 2. Yeah, okay. So it's a 4 and 4. So it is genuinely a tie in terms of what I've decided. That being said, you could probably sway the voting just given like personal preference on sole plate and on upper. Who is my winner? My winner is the Alpha 2. The reason for that is because the Alpha 2, as I just said, is the most focused, aggressive, and an impressive speed boot, I think, one of that's ever been created. It is genuinely remarkable how technologically focused it is, how aggressive it is, how fun it is to play in. It does everything so well. And it is one of those boots that I just absolutely love playing in. So that is the weekly boot comparison. Make sure you stay tuned on my Instagram at noah.cavanaugh for more information about next week's episode 7 of the weekly boot comparison. And you guys can vote for which one you'd like to see next. Number 2 on that list, I think, was Scudetta versus F50, maybe? Maybe that was the comparison? No, we did that one already. Maybe it was Razor versus Scudetta. Anyway, we'll put some more polls up there. And yeah, so stay tuned. At Noah.Cavanaugh, stay tuned on my stories. All right, now we move on to Wear Your Boot Wednesday winner. You guys can also submit your Wear Your Boot Wednesdays when it is Wednesday, your time, anywhere in the world. You tag me at Noah.Cavanaugh on Instagram with you in the boots. So it can be just your feet in the boots, or it can be a full shot. I've had people submit entire like full image photos of them on the field with their boots. Either work great, but your feet have to be in the boots. None of this crap. Wear your boot Wednesday. No. Wear your boot Wednesday. And you have to do the hashtag wear your boots with an S, wear your boots Wednesday. The winner for this week is at chris.pottle, an absolute graphic goat. He is amazing. You guys should go check his stuff out. He has an awesome football boot page, and he was wearing a pair of Nemesis Plus in the screaming orange colorway. A very unique pair of football boots, very difficult to find. It's been a really long time since we've seen them. The last time I saw a pair of Nemesis in person was when I was playing for Rockingham City over in Perth in 2020, 5 years ago. They haven't been out for a really long time because they moved to after the Nemesis was did they have Nemesis and Ghosted at the same time? No, they got rid of the Nemesis and introduced the Ghosted line. Yeah. Anyway, so very cool photo. You guys will see it up on screen there. So Wear Your Boot Wednesday winner at chris.pottle. Go check him out. He has some amazing content. So very cool. Okay, performance breakdowns. We are in Boot Talk performance breakdowns. Now I wanted to follow up really quick because I did my play test in the Skechers SKX. Now you guys will see the full review and playtest of this boot coming up very soon, but I just wanted to give you a quick preview of that one. And this is an SKX, and they've put the soft ground Razor sole plate on the SKX for, I know, the Aussie market, and I think potentially other markets as well, although I don't know if this is going to be available in other countries. The sole plate from the SKX isn't very great. The sole plate on the Razor, however, is very good in my opinion. It's not exceptional. It's not Puma Ultra 5 good, but it's really good. The basic one is really good. You add steel studs to that and you add screw ends, and it transforms the playing experience of this SKX. Genuinely, I was very impressed. It was like, okay, now instead of being kind of a weird knockoff version of the Phantom GT from Nike, it's like, oh yeah, like this performs really well. It transforms the playing experience. This sole plate is awesome. It doesn't change the shape all that much of this boot. So I know a lot of people will sort of comment on like, okay, well, if it's got a different sole plate or if it's got a different last, does it change the shape? For whatever reason, I fit totally fine in my usual size 9 US, even though I have to go up half a size for the Razor. That might be because of the width and the length of that boot. But again, it's the same sole plate, so you'd kind of expect it to be similar sizing. I don't know. All I'm saying, though, is that the playing experience is totally transformed. And I actually really enjoyed playing in the SKX with this sole plate because it just added that little bit more like fun and aggressiveness, which I think is freaking amazing. So that's performance breakdown. Now, in terms of boot fit and tech, I wanted to talk really quick about technology and some of the thoughts that I've had about the Phantom 360. So the Phantom 360 is the newest addition to the Phantom lineup. It's going to replace GX2 and GX2, well, Luna 2, I guess. I was going to say GX2 DF. That's not right. Luna 2. So GX2 and Luna 2 are being replaced by Phantom 360 and probably Phantom 360 DF or Luna 2. By the prototype photos I've seen, it looks like it just depends on what they're going to name it, but it's literally going to be the same as the GX2 and the Luna 2 in terms of it being a low top and a low top with a sock. Like it's going to be the boring ass shit that Nike's pulled the last several years. However, it's an exciting product, but where does grip knit go next? Because I would be shocked if they didn't include grip knit. And from all the photos, it looks like grip knit is very much a part of this. We've talked about this in last week's episode and the episode before that. I think it's going to be a rib texture like the GX2. I think it's going to be a thinner material, which will put it sort of in the category of like, if it's, where'd the vapor go? Oh, here we go. If it's ribbed, but it's got even thinner than what the vapor has, in my opinion, that seems to me to be almost similar to Hypervenom Phantom 1. Like sticky, kind of grippy material, but really thin and a little bit kind of ribbed. That might be kind of cool. So if they can manage to make a boot that feels like Hypervenom Phantom 1, but it has the durability of grip knit, that could be really, really special. It still looks like it's still going to be zonal, which doesn't affect striking at all, especially if you look at the differences between GX1 and GX2. Like most people will find that they find that they use the grip knit in kind of the same way for both boots, just because that's what it is. But yeah, it's really interesting. I was just thinking about grip knit and how they're going to sort of reinforce it, which they don't really need to do because it's only got a certain amount of wiggle room in terms of stretch and moldability. It does a great job at molding to the foot, but it doesn't stretch that much. Like it stretches a little bit, but not that much. And so to me, it's more of a, okay, can we shift the design a little bit? Unfortunately, they're probably going with the same kind of Phantom 360 derivative, or sorry, not Phantom 360, Cyclone 360 and or Cyclone 360 derivative sole plate, which is really disappointing. But we'll see what happens. But I'm just hopeful that they make it. I'm hopeful that they iterate the grip knit just a little bit more, make it fine tuned a little bit more, make it a little thinner, make it a little bit closer to that Hypervenom feeling, because that would be pretty special. Okay, new boots in the shop. This is a very exciting section because I have some absolutely insane stuff to show you, and I'm only going to show you sneak peeks because you guys have to go watch the reviews. So the first one I want to show you guys is the brand new Harry Kane Skechers SKX Absolutely beautiful boots, in my opinion. I think these look amazing. You've got his signature there. You've got the HK logos on the inside of the S, and then you've got all these little gold plus signs, 36 to be exact, to commemorate his Golden Boot winning season in the Bundesliga with 36 goals. Awesome, awesome colorway. And I think the SKX is going to do really well coming up. Next, we have the, this is a brand called Enkai. It's an Indonesian brand, and I'm only going to show you one of the pairs that I have. But this is one of their synthetic boots. So this is an Indonesian brand that makes synthetic boots, and so I will be reviewing those. It's like a pretty decent, actually soft kind of Tasian synthetic feeling material. A little bit stiff here in the heel area, and the sole plate looks kind of cheap, but I'm really excited to review these. And actually, I haven't actually tried those on at all, so I don't know what they feel like. And then we got one of my grail pairs. This is a pair of Hypervenom Phantom 3s, and they are the most beautiful Hypervenom Phantom 3 to ever grace this earth. And they are the low tops, which is my favorite, and I'm putting them away now because you guys need to go watch the video. Okay, so those are the, oh, and then the Enkai also have a leather option, very, very similar to the synthetic model, but they are, I'll show you guys those once we get those out of the box and that video launches. Okay, moving on to boot culture and trends. Now, I'm going to talk really quickly about the fall of Nike football. This is the section where I go over some of the iconic Nike boots of the past, and basically argue that Nike has not completely, they have done an absolute number on their brand heritage, their brand name, the brand equity that they have. And I think they've really destroyed it in a lot of ways. And it's a big bummer to see. It's super unfortunate because Nike was so dominant for so long and was such at the tippy top of all of the innovation in the football boot world. So it's just a bummer. 2008 to 2018, probably a little bit earlier than 2008, but like up until 2018, the F50 was kind of around, and obviously the Predator was around, but like Nike football, particularly 08 to 18, was so dominant. Like if you wore F50s, you were a little edgy. It was like something different, but like you wanted Nike football boots. Like some of the greatest football boots of all time came out of Nike between that era. You think super rare ones like Vapor SL, Vapor 4 SL that I have behind me, Hypervenom 1, Hypervenom 3, Tiempo Legend 4 Elite, Tiempo Legend 5. What are we looking at? Magista Obra 1, Superfly 4, Vapor 11, like Superfly 3. All of these are absolutely, how about Flyknit Ultra? Like some of the most incredible and iconic football boots. From 2019, basically to now, I would argue, other than like a few boots here, one or two boots that are gonna do good, and they're gonna be remembered in a really positive light. Phantom Ultra, Tiempo Legend 9 Elite, and the first generation GX, in my opinion, are kind of like the three that I think about of like, oh yeah, those are going to be remembered in a decade's time. Those were really good football boots. Outside of that though, in the last 5 to 6 years, Nike has made some missteps that are almost unforgivable. Phantom Luna 1. Absolute disgrace of a football boot, bullshit marketing, because at least from what I heard from multiple sources, it wasn't actually a woman's last. It was just a recreated GX DF, and they made it really poor. A sole plate that is not good for rotational energy and rotate, the ability to rotate without getting injuries. Notice how many players were in those for the first like 1 or 2 games of the World Cup. And then look how many players at the end of that World Cup and after the World Cup who never touched a Phantom Luna. And I'm talking about the Women's World Cup. How many didn't touch the Phantom Luna? That boot is so outrageously disgraceful to women's football, to consumers. It just drives me up the wall. So huge misstep, number 1. Misstep number 2, Tiempo Legend 10 Elite. Moving away from leather and the Tiempo, no less, calling it a Tiempo, trying to finesse the consumer with the launch of the CTR 363 remake prior to it. So it's like, hey, remember you like fake leather. No, we don't. No, we don't. Not in Fly Touch Plus. It ain't that good. It ain't. No. Not the same thing. Number 3, no more Premier. Yeah. If you didn't know already, because they didn't announce it and there was absolutely zero anything about the launch of, well, what's the opposite of launch? The crucifixion of the Premier. No more Premier. Then we have, in my opinion, what is the beginning of the end, which is when the Superfly became just the Vapor with a sock. That is the moment when those 2 beautiful models became one, and it was just a $25 extra for about that much of floppy Flyknit material. Beginning of the end. Example, GT1 to GT2. Debatably the same, well, it's not even debatable. It was the same boot, and they called it 2 different generations. Now we are in a space where we have Vapor, Superfly, GX2, Luna 2, and Tiempo Legend 10. Those are the 5 top-end silos. First of all, Vapor and Superfly are the same boot. GX2 and Luna 2 are the same boot, and Tiempo is its own boot. So technically, you have 3 different silos. But let's just give them benefit of the doubt. Okay, fine. They're 5. Vapor, Superfly, GX2, and Luna 2 all are made with the same material. Grip knit and Flyknit. Minor tweaks to the grip knit, minor tweaks to the Flyknit. You put, air zoom on the Vapor and Superfly because it's the Merc. Slap on the disgusting sole plate from the Fanta Luna 1 onto the Luna 2 and the GX2. So that means, statistically, 80%, 4 out of 5, of Nike's football boots are basically the same. That is ridiculous. Because only a decade ago, 11 years ago, in 2014, we had, watch this, Tiempo Legend 5 Elite. Beautiful boot, iconic, still to this day, one of the best Tiempos of all time. Best leather boots of all time. Superfly 4, Vapor 10, the amazing Tajin synthetic the Skechers Razor is based on. Magista Obra 1, Magista Opus 1, totally different materials, both top-end boots. Hypervenom Phantom 1. You had 6 top-end models that were all distinctly different. The only 2, I would argue, that you could maybe say, okay, but those are like kind of similar, are the Superfly 4 and the Magista Obra. But if you try them on in terms of fit and shape and technology, sure, Flyknit base. But they were completely different executions. The Magista Obra went way more down the comfort route with the conical studs, and it was just elegant and beautiful and control boot. Whereas the Superfly was like hyper, like razor thin Flyknit, fly wire cables, and a carbon fiber sole, right? So those are the only 2 that you could argue like, okay, those are kind of similar. We're still at 5. Let's say those are like, combine those into 1. That's still 5 remarkably different silos, all doing really cool stuff in their own way. And now we have 80% of the boots that are the insane. It drives me bananas that Nike is doing this now. Oh man, I could riff on this for a day. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, go subscribe to the newsletter because I riff on this for a long time in the newsletter for this week. The fall of Nike. Okay, moving on to section 3, market report, market report, market report. Resale market trends. We have a pretty strong continuation of dropping prices for previous generation and current generation top-end football boots across the brands. I've seen a lot of Vapor 15-16s. I've seen a lot of Pred 24-25, a lot of F50s on the resale market, although not as many as Pred and Vapors. I've seen many GX2s and not very many GX1s, but I would say for the most part, the Predators and the Vapors, past generation and this generation, I'm seeing a lot of, and on the resale market, and a lot of them are going under retail. So it's a bummer. It's kind of where the market is now, but it's very, you can see a continuation of these. And honestly, if you're watching this and you're like, "Ooh, I'm in the market for a Vapor," honestly, at this point, I would just go to Instagram and buy one for under retail, because you can get the modern colorway for well under retail on the Instagram resale market. So that's what I would do. Second resale market trend is that Adidas seems to have, in my opinion, and what I've noticed on the market, Adidas seems to have the best resale market values compared to Nike and Puma for current models. Obviously, if you get a pair of Nike like Hypervenom 3s or something like that, they're going to be crazy expensive. But Adidas seems to have like Predators and Copas and F50s are out. It seems to be outselling GX2, Vapor 16, Superfly 10, and Tiempos on the resale market for new color, like for the newest generation. And then Puma's definitely not anywhere close to that. In fact, a lot of it very seldom do I see Puma boots on the resale market, which is good or not so good if it means that none of them are selling to begin with. And then what that also means is like New Balance, Skechers, and Under Armour in particular are really struggling on the resale market. Like New Balance boots, despite having a really great starting price point, are selling for dirt cheap. You don't see very many New Balance boots. Skechers are selling for half of retail on the resale market, which is a bummer because I think the product's actually pretty good. And then Under Armour, like Magnetico 4, which is probably the worst football boot on the market, objectively speaking, you don't see any of those because they're probably all selling for 67 cents at Ross. Like that's the vibe of Under Armour right now. However, resale markets for Shadow 3 and Shadow 2 actually are doing okay, it seems like. Some notable boots resurfacing. This is one of my favorite sections because every week I go through my Instagram stories and see what people are posting. Also just through the feed of like what boot dealers are posting. So we have 3 boot dealers who I have seen this week. The boot spot posted some amazing stock, but I will show you photos. It was basically a screenshot of 6 boots and one of the boots in each of these 6. It'll make sense when I put them up on screen. Is the boot that I'm thinking about. So we have the What the Superfly 4 Elite, which is such a cool football boot. It's very rare. They're definitely a trophy piece. It's not a piece that I would ever like wear in a match or anything. Hypervenom 3 DF Air Max 95s. Little bit of relevance because they just released the Vapor 16 and Superfly 10 Air Max. And the F50 Adi Zero Prime in white and green. Some beautiful looking football boots. We also had at Shop Crampons with a variety, 5 different Adidas Glitch colorways, which is really cool. The Glitch was an interesting concept from the Adidas brand. The only bummer is I think they only sold them in England or in Europe. And I remember when they first launched and it was such a cool concept. I've never worn a pair. I have no idea what they feel like. That internal piece is probably pretty comfy. The external cage thing is probably all right. Again, speaking of Puma Future 8 and the Shadow 1, double layer uppers are just really tough. Really, really tough, particularly if it's a synthetic outer layer, outer shell that doesn't really stretch all that much. So that's kind of a bummer. But very cool colorways nonetheless. I really like that blue and black colorway. And then we also have a beautiful pair of 2013 leather F50s in black and electric yellow/green from at Classic Boots Matter. So some amazing Noteable boots resurfacing. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these people. This is just a shout out for the Instagram boot dealers of the world who are putting up some really, really sick stock. Okay, now we move on to really quick limited edition releases. Just a recap: Messi F50, Mbappe, Kith, and Bellingham. So those were our four, ironically, our four actual boot releases, and then also the four limited edition releases that we got this week. In my opinion, if I'm going to rank them, I'm going to go the Kith, especially the blue and the black one, Bellingham, Pred, Messi F50, Mbappe. That's my order. Okay, section 4, questions. You too can ask questions at noahcavanaugh.com/podcast. Put in your questions. Make sure you ask every week. I will be putting some stuff on Instagram as well to remind you guys. And yeah, we got some great questions this week. So Aldo asks, if Skechers Razor had a good AG plate, would it be one of the best boots on the market? So let's assume, and just for shits and gigs, I'm going to get out this other colorway, which I think is really sick. So let's assume that they did what they did with this one, where they basically just have the same sole plate construction, but they just swapped these TPU studs for steel studs, right? FG to SG. What if they went FG to AG? So they just made like really nice conical studs, but on the same platform. That would probably be one of the better boots on the market. I got to be honest with you, because I already think the Skechers Razor is very good. I really like playing in it. It's super comfy. I love this upper. It's like the perfect combination of padded and barefoot feeling. You have a knit midfoot, so it feels thin. The touch feels light. They feel exceptionally comfortable on feet. And it's actually like, people don't give it credit. And I know a lot of the market had to sort of warm up to the Razor, but the Razor is a really good product. And I think it's a very, very good product. I am obsessed with the new colorways with this one and the white and silver in the Razor. I think it looks amazing. So Aldo, to answer your question, if it had a good AG plate, like if they just use the same plate but replace these with conical studs, it would be pretty freaking and amazing. And I think a lot more people would actually go for it. Aldo actually also asked a second question, which I remember I'm going to just sort of melt it into this one. Are they actually putting out an AG plate at some point soon? I hope so. I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. And even if I did know, I couldn't tell you. So yeah, I'm not sure. And that's coming from the context of like, I actually have no idea. I don't know. Noah asks, not me, don't worry. Noah asks, how did you get into boot collecting and testing? How can I start my collection of boots? Well, you can start your collection of boots by just keeping the boots that you buy. That's what a collection is. That's really all it is. I know I'm being sarcastic here, but like, come on, use your brain cells. How did I get into boot collecting and testing? Well, the YouTube channel came first, building subscribers, building business out of it, and then figured out that I had a thing for boot reviews because I've always loved it. But like, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing boot reviews, if that makes sense. Like, I can't force myself to love boots. It's just like it's just something that I love, period. And so I've always had a fascination for performance products, especially performance footwear. And so having football boots is just like, that's just a thing that was very natural. And the process of doing YouTube, starting boot reviews just with whatever boot that I bought for that season, and then having people go, dude, I think you're really good at that. And I think there's something here. Listening to that feedback and being like, okay, cool, lean into it, and then create a business out of it. So that's how I did it. That being said, that's not for everybody, and it's probably not for anybody, because that's my way of doing it, and I'm different from you. And even though we share the same name, you're probably not going to be able to do what I did because you're not me, and that's okay. And I think you need to find your own method. And I think if you're going to do boot collecting, and like if you're going to start testing football boots, that's a totally different conversation. So maybe we can address that in a different episode. Lucas asks, can you do a video on Mizuno Alpha versus Mizuno Alpha 2? No. Milan. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to, because in the Mizuno Alpha 2 review, I literally broke down the differences between the Alpha 1 and the Alpha 2. So watch my freaking content. Lucas asks, oh no, I just did that one. Milan asks, what boots are best for narrow heel area? I always struggle with slippage and I'd appreciate your help. Download my free size guide at on my website, noahkavanaugh.com/shop. And you can find, it's a totally free size guide, and it's got a breakdown of the like it's got like, you know, wide forefoot, wide midfoot, and narrow heel area. Narrow forefoot, wide midfoot, you know, like the whole breakdown of forefoot, midfoot, heel area for every boot that I've ever tested, or all the modern day ones that you can actually purchase. And you should go download that one because it's totally free and it's an asset that you can use and come back to anytime you want. So go download that. Emmanuel asks, would you recommend a young player coming up to try all positions or stick to the one they know best? Fabulous, fabulous question. I really like this question. There are kind of two different philosophies when it comes to player development. And I would say with the growing competitiveness of football in general, obviously there's context here. So it depends on where you grew up and where you are currently. So let's take this as an example. If you are a player in America and you're an MLS Next Pro player and you're a winger and you're scoring lots of goals and you're getting lots of assists, I wouldn't try and go be a center back. It also depends on the context of how old you are. So this is my philosophy. This is not researched. This is literally just marrying my personal experience with sort of my judgments of how I've seen players develop. Using my own career as an anecdote, I was able to get really far in my career by being sort of a Swiss Army knife of a player. I could play in a lot of different positions. And that doesn't always necessarily mean I could play center back, center mid, center forward, winger, blah, blah, blah. No. I can play multiple similar positions in different formations that have different roles. So I can play center back. I can play left side center back or right side center back in a 3. I can play outside back in a 4. I can play wing back. So technically a midfielder in a 3-4-3. Or a 3-5-2. All of those positions are similar. It's more defensive with some attacking stuff, especially as a wing back or an outside back in a 4. But they have different roles, but they're in the same sort of category. So I think when you're super young, 0 to like 10 years old, I look, if I'm going to coach a 10-year-old team, y'all are playing everywhere. Sure, there's going to be players that I'm going to put up top because they can score 5 goals in 3 minutes. Fair enough. But like, I personally think that shuffling positions is the best way to go when you're really young. 10 to like 15, 16, start to narrow down sort of where you're at and what sort of your vibe is. Like, what are the things that I'm really good at? What are the things that I feel like I have to train really hard to get good at? Then you can start to get an idea of like, you know, for instance, when I was that age, when I was like 10 to 16, 10 to 17 years old, 10 to 16 probably, I played all the outside positions. So I played like way up top in a 4-3-3 as a winger, like an attacking 1v1 player. I played in a 4-4-2, played both outside back and like outside midfielder basically. So I played a lot on the outside of the field. Yeah, I dabbled in midfield occasionally, and I can play there. It's not a big deal. But that was sort of where I started to move. And then when I got from basically like 18 onwards, it was like, okay, now I'm like training as an outside back, wing back, center back. Like that's like kind of my thing now. Part of that is because I'm technically very good. I wasn't good enough to be a professional or like a winger at like a very high level, right? Like I'm just not that kind of player. But I am very good at moving off the ball and like I had my own skill set. So that's my 2 cents. Great question though. Bunny asks, I bought the new Athleta O'Rei T7. Love the boots. Perfect fit with the K leather. However, the shape of the heel area is giving me heel bite. What should I do? That's interesting because I feel like the Athleta O'Rei T7 has one of the most neutral heel areas. So if it is going to continue to be an issue for you, I would strongly recommend trying the Asics DS Lite X-Fly Pro 3 or the X-Fly 5. Either of those boots. Eker asks, again, good to see you on a second week in a row. Since you're testing so many boots, how do you break them in all at once? Is there something you use to break them in faster or something you do? No, my feet take an absolute metric shit ton of beating all the time because I am breaking in boots on a very weekly, on a weekly basis, on a regular basis. And I literally bring a duffel bag out to the pitch with me when I go out there and kick a ball around and film videos and do stuff. So I don't really have a process of breaking in boots faster necessarily, unless I really need to. But usually it's just brute force and time. Like I just spend time in the boots. That's really how it works. Roberto asks, any boots you recommend for women soccer players? Maybe some budget-friendly boots for women. Great question. I'm going to recommend Asics because they are the most comfortable football boots for everybody, in my opinion. So that's probably what I'd recommend. They also have the most neutral sole plates and neutral stud patterns, which means you're going to be more safe for like ACL tears and stuff like that. If you order out of Tokyo Football or you order out of Australia, depending on where you live, they're going to be, or from Japan, they're going to be like on eBay, they're going to be less expensive than a lot of the top end models. So you can buy a premium model like the DS Lite X-Fly 5 here, which I got from an eBay dealer for, I think it was like $175. And that's like not a discounted price. That's just like what the top end Asics boot costs in Japan, which is pretty awesome. So that's what I'd recommend. Unfortunately, IDA has some good women's fit football boots. They're like a women only football boot brand. So you could check those out as well. But that would be my recommendation. Unfortunately, there's not, like I said earlier with the Luna one and whatever, like there isn't a whole lot of women's fit football boots, especially at the budget friendly option. If you can go and try on some stuff, I would highly recommend it. But that, again, it's just about finding the right fit, regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl. It doesn't really matter. Okay, last question. Tonza asks, is it worth going laceless for a cleaner striking surface? Absolutely not. No. Laceless football boots are objectively worse. And if you are going to take the laces out to strike the ball cleaner, number one, you've got a completely twisted sense of what actually makes. If you are affected by laces when you strike the ball, you're probably striking the ball either wrong or you've got just a really crap mindset. And I'm not trying to crap on you. Like, please don't take this personally. All I'm saying is that I have a personal thing about laceless football boots. I think some of them are fine. Some of them are like fun to kick around in, but from an objective performance perspective, they're just worse. And you're going to lose out on all the lockdown, potential ankle damage, potential foot injuries, like all this other stuff that come along with a boot that isn't actually locked in. So yeah. All right, guys, that is going to be it for the Boot Report episode number 6. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My name is Noah Cavanaugh, and I'll see you guys in the next video.